Hello and welcome to a video where I don't want to try to explain something, but I want to show something I have been thinking about since this chart was shown in court. This is the Commonwealth's final proof she hit John O'Keefe because between the distance of 45 feet and 62 feet, she does a steering correction from 4.5 degrees left turn to 4.5 degrees right turn, and then back to a 4.5 degrees left turn, which this expert says is consistent with a center of mass, which will say torso, impact on a body that will send this body rotating around its axis, spinning upside down, hitting the curb, spinning back, and ending up on the lawn of Fairview 34. It's the Canton Triangle. If you don't think about it, it makes sense. But him testifying that that was the motion the body did, absolutely bullcrap. We all know that, but they have to explain the head injury. The problem is, I did this on my Friday stream. I asked ChatGPT to figure out how much force would have impacted the body and how much injuries it would have. And it would say it would almost certainly have been fatal because it's center mass. For those of you who don't know your own body, everything important is inside this big noggin and then inside your rib cage. If you get, I believe it was 77,000 pounds of pressure put on, even though your rib cage is meant to give, it can't absorb that amount of force. Don't think about it. He pirouetted, went upside down, hit the curb, flew into the yard. But the thing I was thinking about, because this is the hardcore evidence that proves Karen Reed is guilty. She makes a steering correction of 9 degrees and back 9 degrees, proving that's exactly when she hit John O'Keefe. But, and this I hope comes up in the cross-examination, because you could also see she had a constant left angle on her steering wheel, except those 4.5 degrees right turn, which could be consistent with Fairview Road. Fairview Road is on a curve. But then another thing, let's go down and look from street view. Oh, and we can't see that house, the house that don't have a ring camera because a police officer lives over there. But this is the area. Somewhere in here is where they find John O'Keefe, between 5 and 20 feet off the ground. I don't want to argue that. That's not what I'm going to use this for. But we know it's somewhere between the fire hydrant and a flagpole. Let's say this is the area. It probably don't matter if it's here or it's here they find the body. For this, it's just, again, something that makes my brain hurt when I think about it. Let's go back to the overview. If we place that same spot roughly around those bushes, you can see this is a different photo. This is a satellite photo, not a drive-by photo. So that's why it looks different. But I think roughly between the flagpole and the fire hydrant would be this bush. Then YouTube has this nice little thing where you can, or Google has a nice little thing where you can put down a spot and say, I want to, why did you do that? No, don't move. Sorry. Clear measurement. Then we do another measurement. Come on. Start here. And then we go down here. First, we know she's roughly 62 feet is where she starts her drive. If we place it here along the curb, 62 feet from the curb to the impact zone. That gives us, it could be why she had the steering wheel at a left turn. But let's try and clear this one and then set down a new one and then measure, because she, after hitting John, she continues going for 97.35 feet. That's roughly here. It's a 97.53. It's a little more. Don't worry about it. That's not it. That's what the graphic told us. She starts from this position, roughly at this position, she hits John, and this is when the data ends. There's only one problem, because when the data ends, her car is still moving at 23.6 miles per hour. So again, I'm not that smart. So I went to ChatGPT and says, if a car weighs 7,000 pounds, how long will it take to come to a complete stop if it travels at 23.6 miles in reverse? And then we get the conversions, equation of motion, calculating the stopping time, which would give us a travel distance after the end of the data set of roughly 40 feet. Roughly 40 feet she would have to continue on, because cars don't stop instantly, because the amount of motion has to decelerate. So if you take these 97 roughly feet that's described in the data set and add these roughly 40 feet to the travel distance, which was 97 feet from when the car started, 62 feet point of impact, 97.5 feet is roughly when the data set ends. And then you add in the 40 feet she would have to continue driving. And let's just say she keeps it on the road. She would have had to gone 147 feet if ChatGPT is to be trusted. Am I the only one who has a problem with this? Am I wrong saying for this to happen, there should be a big crash impact when she hits Brian Higgins' truck that's placed here alongside the curb with a big plow on it? Or there should be a very, very big, because at this point she has a slight left turning angle on the steering wheel when she ends up with the data cycle. There should be a heavy correction left to steer around Brian Higgins' car, or she should be plowed into the cars in the driveway. Can someone help me understand why the Commonwealth didn't show you any of this? If they believe their data is sound, why didn't they show when the deacceleration cycle was done? Because and I don't even put into account that it was a slippery road or anything. This is under perfect conditions. Her car would have had, if she was hitting him with 24.2 miles per hour at a roughly 62 feet, she would have had to continue traveling to a total distance of roughly 142.26 feet, which would put her on the plow of Brian Higgins, in the driveway, crossing the lawn, hitting the other cars in the driveway, or doing something that they can't even do in the Le Mans right now, make a left turn on a slippery road, steering past Brian Higgins' car without anyone hearing this car making all of this acceleration, these maneuvers, because again, we know roughly until this point, she just have a slight left turn, which could be accounted for by the curvature on the road. I don't know. But what we are to believe is when the car, according to ChatGPT, I can't do the math. I'm a baker. I'm not a cardiologist. This is where the car would have ended up somewhere. If she clocked the brakes the instant she hit him, she didn't do that. We know her brakes wasn't on when she was roughly at this point. Let's say she then clocks the brakes. Then you'll have to have her somewhere in this area when it comes to a complete standstill. And with the brakes fully engaged, either maneuver around Brian Higgins' car, or Brian Higgins' car wasn't placed in front of Fairview 34 as claimed. If they don't do that, again, people way smarter than me can take all of that evidence and ruin this is the bombshell. This is what they claim shows she hit him. 24.2 miles per hour, slight knob on the steering wheel, then back to the same exact steering on the car, not accelerating, but keeping the same speed for the next second. Only time there's anything out of the ordinary other than the big jump in acceleration in this half a second and this half a second is a 9-degree both way turn on the wheel that they claim is when she hit John O'Keefe. But if she, after their data set ended, instantly pressed the brakes, she would be roughly, let's just say she follows the curvature of the road because she was driving around it. She would roughly be outside the driveway. If she had taken that route, she would have been exactly where Higgins' car was. And that's only if she hits the brake and it connects with the ground perfectly, not on a wet road, which we know it was because remember, he's talked a lot about snow. Am I the only one wondering why the Commonwealth believes, other than it looks good? I said that in my recap video. It looks good for the jury. The expert said, oh, this is working, all of this is good. But you forget, they always forget to carry their one in their equations because a car doesn't stop or disappear. A car must, if it gains momentum, it has to lose momentum. And to come to a complete stop in the best of conditions. After the data set we saw, her car would have been in this area, and Brian Higgins placed his car in front of the mailbox. How did she not sideswipe that? How did she do these maneuvers and the car didn't kick in? I don't know. I'm not that smart. Maybe you know, because I know my viewers are the smartest ever. But if a stupid baker can do this in half an hour on ChatGPT and Google Earth, imagine what microdots Alan Jackson and Yannetti can do combined. Monday will be fun day.